Good evening, everybody. A little update here on some equipment. I got this here snow fighting apparatus. I won that at an auction locally. And it works pretty good. We haven't really had a whole lot of snow to test it with. But from what I did use it a little bit, it worked okay. 6 foot wide rear mount snowblower goes on the back of the tractor. So you kind of got to turn in the seat a little bit when you run it, but it's not a big deal for me anyway. Whole point of this here video is this came with a manual control for the chute. So basically, in order to get the chute to turn left and right and make the snow go where you want it to go, you gotta rotate that there lever from way up in here. So I'm 6'2", and I got long arms, and I can barely reach this here end of the stick when it's down on the ground in the working position. So that was obviously an issue, and you got to open the window. So you got to have the window open to do that, and that lets all the heat out of the tractor. The very little heat that it actually makes. That's a whole nother discussion. So what I did is I went around on the interwebs and sourced some parts and came up with this here worm drive gear reduction low speed high torque electric motor. It's 12 volts. So it runs off the tractor voltage off the battery. And I made a little mount for it. It's actually an adjusting mount so that it will slide back and forth. The idea being that you can slide it over and be able to, what'd this thing do? Low battery, I don't know. You can slide that over and undo the chain if you had to, and rotate that thing manually or work on it or whatever. And basically disengage it if you had to. All the electrical connections for this are in this weatherproof box here. And basically I just found that on eBay as well. Got some waterproof gland connectors to bring the cables in and make them waterproof. I got some quick disconnect connectors here for the power. That goes all the way up to the battery. Another low battery warning. I don't know if that's showing up or not. Yeah, so I got a little fuse here. I think right now I've got a 10 amp fuse in there. That's 10 gauge wire going to the back. And that's encapsulated in wire loom to keep it from rubbing and shorting out. And on the control side, got this little box that I made. Well, I didn't make it. I mean, the box, I bought it, but I drill a hole in there, put these two momentary switches. The switch itself reverses polarity. So when you push it one way, it goes in that direction. And when you push it in this way, it goes the other direction. The speed, I think, is acceptable for what it is. Of course, the other thing is, the sprocket that came with the motor is what came with it. And I don't know what the exact ratio is, but I don't want to create a situation where the motor is not powerful enough to move the thing. If there gets any snow and ice in the mechanism here and it binds up, I don't want to, blow anything up. So I think the speed is good. The other switch here eventually is going to be for a linear actuator that goes up there, and that'll control the angle of the deflector at the top there. So then it'll be, you know, full function right from here. And then this basically just goes up. Come on, gimbal, do what you're supposed to do. This goes up in there through the window. You know, I just lay the controller in the cab. Go on, get in there, and shut the window behind it. And it will latch. You know, you can actually pinch this in there, and it'll latch and fully close. Quick and easy, works. The other benefit to that is I can use that on the other tractor, that tractor, if need be. So it's kind of modular in that sense that all the controls and the power and everything comes with the blower. So I just need to add one of these to the other tractor on the rear. I've got one on the front, but I need to add another one on the rear. Another thing I had to do here was add some machine washers to this here. There's 3 washers. I got them at Tractor Supply. There was that amount of play in the shaft. So I want to say going in the this direction, the chain, the motor assembly would run just fine, but going in the opposite way, that amount of distance in the shaft would come into effect, and the shaft would actually move this way, and then the chain would bind, because then it was kind of, you know, off the center line between the gears. So I added those shims in there, oiled it up real good, and that seemed to fix that problem. So it goes smoothly in both directions, because otherwise it was chattering quite a bit. So it was a problem, but I fixed it. Other things I may do to this, I may add some lights to it. I don't know if I'll add a light up there or down there. I'm trying to get used to how this gimbal thing works. Maybe add some lights on the side or something, or maybe some warning lights. May add some drift knives to the sides of this, depending on how much snow we get. Over here. There you go. No, go back. Oh my God. Got to get used to this thing. But we need some snow first. We haven't gotten hardly any snow up here in central New York. That's kind of a problem when you go and get snow blowers and do all this work and then you don't get any snow. But we're ready. We got chains all around on the tractor and should be ready for some serious snowfall if it ever comes. Hoping for January that maybe we'll get some snow, but we'll see. But yeah, that's about it for this update. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one. So we're gonna do a little close-up here as well. Had a bright idea, literally. Turn on our studio lighting. Just get in here close and run the thing. These welds are actually tack welds. They're temporary for now. I just did that real quick and dirty to mock it up and see how it worked and function test it. I think we might actually just let her go for a little bit, see how it does. And you know, once it gets to that point where we're confident in the overall design, then we'll weld it up, you know, all nicey nice. So, get nice close in here. I did throw some spray oil in between there and on them little, we'll call them bushings, I guess. So I'm trying to, you know, lube up as much as I can to make it as easy as possible for that little motor. It's a little, I don't know, I guess it's a little on the smaller side, but it works. You know, that's why that reduction is in there. I got like 10 teeth on the drive gear, and I think 20 something on the driven. I also did order another sprocket with that, with like 30 something teeth on it, to go from like 1 to 2 to 3 to 1 if need be. But we'll see how this goes. This thing actually has holes. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there we go. This has holes in there, and snow actually shoots out from that and lands on the I guess we'll call that a ring gear or giant sprocket. So I don't know how that's gonna play with the worm drive over there, and by extension the motor. So if need be, I'll weld up some little corner pieces to go in there and block that off to keep the snow from falling out. I doubt that's really gonna affect the overall operation of this thing. But just to try and keep that assembly as clean as possible. Because obviously up here in good old central New York, you're not blowing just snow, you're blowing salt and sand and dirt and God knows whatever else. So that's all coming out of there and getting in there. So it'd be interesting to see what happens when a small stone or something gets gobbled up in that mechanism. And then this has to turn against it and break it. Also thinking about eventually making some sort of shroud to go over this whole thing to try and keep the weather and the elements and all that cruddy crap off of the motor itself. It's supposedly waterproof, but you know how that goes. Nothing's really truly waterproof unless you spend a lot of money, and that's partly why I got that motor for the price point. So yeah, and as I'm talking about that, I got wires right here exposed. We'll fix that eventually. That was left that way in case I had to, deal with a polarity issue, that I could just switch it there instead of having to rewire stuff or pull this box apart and redo all that nonsense. Yeah, so the other option was try and track down the hydraulic kit that uses the rear remotes on the tractor. Tractor does have rear remotes. They're pretty handy, especially when you can use the one on the cylinder, or the cylinder here on the 3-point hitch, to help angle your hitch when it's time to attach and detach from big monstrous things like this. You can kind of kick it off with the hitch or kind of nudge into it, but as you see right here, this thing's sitting right on the floor, well, ground. And if we open her up, you don't drop any because it's all the way down. So basically, we got to put this thing up on a pallet in order to get it off the tractor. Kind of a pain in the butt, but that's the way it is because it's down on the ground. I don't have a floor yet. So in order to get the thing on and off, it's got to be up a little higher, at least to the height of a pallet, I found, in order to clear the hooks on the bottom of the quick hitch here. So it is what it is. There's really no way around it because you can't really put any feet or anything under the blower itself, because then it would be elevated up above the ground, and that's no longer a snowblower. It's a half snowblower. Yeah, you could make something that is like a telescoping thing, feet, but that's a lot of work. That's pointless. It's a lot of wasted money and time. Better to just throw it on a pallet and call it a day. But yeah, rear remotes, hydraulic would be the next, the option that are available from like the factory if you were to buy this thing new. I got it at auction for pretty cheap, probably because it had this hand crank on it and nobody was like interested in that. I can't blame them. But if you are resourceful and you can tinker a little bit, you can polish a diamond, so to speak. Hydraulic kits are out there, but they're like $1,000. Who wants to spend $1,000 on just that one thing? I think I'm into this for, I think the motor was like 90, probably 50 for the cable. I use trailer cable. So this bottom cable here is the cable that goes to the control box, and that's a 7 conductor 14 gauge trailer wiring harness cable. So 2 power, 2 we'll say polarity power for the motor, 2 power polarity for the future linear actuator, and then the 7th, I think I will actually use that conductor and make a light switch. I'll use that like in series. I'll put the switch in series and make a light switch out of that for lights on the blower, either warning lights or illumination lights or whatever. Trying to think of what I could use that wire for. Probably lights. But yeah, I think that was like 50 bucks. The chain was like, 10 foot, $25, 10-foot roll at Tractor Supply. So probably somewhere between $200 and $250 all told, all in, between the switches, the wire, the motor, the metal that I made the mounting bracket on. I had that was just laying in the pile. So $200, $250 versus $1,000. And then the happiness of getting one over on the man. That's priceless. The other thing that people have done is use like winches. Use like an ATV winch, and then you just wrap the cable around this in such a way and feed it back to the winch so that as one side of the winch spools out, the other side pulls in, and it creates a rotating motion and then turns the thing back and forth. It works. I've seen videos of it on YouTube. Trying to find that stupid winch. There it is. There it is. I even took an ATV winch and pulled the cable off of it and tried to mock that up, and I was like, no, not happening. I think this is a lot cleaner, and it's a lot less invasive, I think. The winch would have required me to build some sort of platform either out here on this side or over there on that side, because you have to, get the cable to go off toward the winch in either way. So it would have been a lot of extra work. The way this is, it's factory-ish, but I think it's a lot cleaner, especially once I make a shroud to go around this. It'll probably look pretty slick. All I had to do, really, the only real modification of the blower itself was to cut this shaft. And basically, inside this sprocket hub here, if we turn on our x-ray vision, the shaft is cut at a 45-degree angle this way. And the reason I did that was so that once I slid this collar on and then put the other side back in, the other half back together, they had a surface to interface and kind of clock themselves to, each half. So it's not like they were just, butting two ends of a straight pipe together. It was, at an angle so that they kind of slide up onto each other and then lock in place. And I thought that made it more rigid, and it put less stress on the hub thing, the sprocket hub itself. Call it a weldable hub, because the actual sprocket where the teeth are is a separate piece from the hub itself. So you first throw a caliper on here, get your diameter. This is 1 1/8 inch outside diameter. So then you find yourself a 1 1/8 inch inside diameter hub, and weld that to the shaft, weld the sprocket to the hub, and that's again, that modularity where you can put different size sprockets on there for different ratios. So, and that's why I'm leaving these welds the way they are now, because I want to run this, and if it does turn out that the little motor here has, it's struggling or whatnot, I'm willing to put the bigger sprocket on here and take the reduction in speed to increase the reliability of the system. So, trade-offs. You can't have torque and horsepower at the same time, or can you? I don't know. You know what I mean. So yeah, I think it works pretty good for what it is. give her another go around here. The other cool thing about this blower is the range of motion that the spout or the chute has here. Real quick, we'll run over here. Yeah, here's the old John Deere 47. It basically means it's a 48-inch wide blower. But on here, the chute only goes left or it goes right. And you basically have like a 180-degree arc either way. Where this will actually kind of point behind you, you know, as you're sitting in the seat of the tractor. Which in some scenarios would be pretty helpful, I think. Especially if you had to like probe into an area with the blower and so see, I'm standing like at the tire here next to the cab of the tractor. So, you know, facing straight back. Yeah, I could probably hit the tractor with the thing if I wanted to, you know, with the snow coming out of there. Not a good idea, because again, big blower sucks up stones and, you know, gravel and stuff. And you don't want that hitting your $700 window or however much that costs. Can't be cheap. So, but yeah, if you had to go into an area where you don't have anywhere else to put the snow like that away, you can kind of aim this behind you. Works pretty good. And I gotta say, that's pretty smooth. I don't know if it's silky smooth, but it's pretty smooth. You don't hear any banging or clattering or chattering or anything. It's nice. Hopefully it stays that way. So we gotta see what happens when we get some actual real snow. Let's see, so you hear that crunchy crunch crunch. That's I haven't turned it all the way in that direction. Well, yeah, because I'm basically pointing at the tractor. So the teeth over there have stuff on them, you know, like rusted and whatnot. And then that little hoppity hop that it just did there, there's one of those thingies on the other side, and basically that's like a hard stop. But it's like a voluntary hard stop, because obviously that hop you saw was it going past the point of no return. Yeah, see, so we got onto some teeth there that had some, you know, rust or dust or whatever. That's why it was chattering a little bit. But otherwise, I like it. We'll see how it does under real conditions here. Yeah, everybody's glad that we're not getting snow. And yeah, the towns are saving money, not having to run their plows and all that. But I got this science project that needs testing. I mean, come on, I need some snow. That doesn't mean dump it here on my front yard. No, I don't want somebody else's snow. I want snow from the sky. So I like the 4 seasons. I don't care what anybody else says. That's the whole point. To have a cycle and to have change and to adapt to it. So I sure adapted this snowblower to be ready for snow. And all we need is probably about 2 feet. No big deal, right? All right, have a good one, people.